Today's word is sleep. And I'm actually kind of doing a little portrait of my wife sleeping. She doesn't know yet. She'll probably be mad at me for doing a picture of her, but my poor sweet little wifey can never ever sleep. She has sleep apnea really bad, and she never gets a good night of sleep. This is like my dream for her, is to have a nice, peaceful night of sleep. It's kind of crazy how you never realize how much you like sleep until you're woke up out of a deep sleep. You have that feeling like you're not done sleeping yet. So we've gotten a lot of this lately because we're parents and we're on our third child, and she's only 8 months, actually almost 9 months. So we've had them all close together, and so we have not had a good night's sleep in years. It's like every time we get up to feed the baby, it's just like, man, I just want to sleep. And the music I'm listening to, if you can hear it, it's probably demonetize this video, but oh well. It's called Sleep by Max Richter. It's probably one of the best sleep tracks I've ever heard. It's really long. I think it's like 9 hours or something like that, but I was only able to get an hour of it, which is long enough for now. It's so crazy as I work on these stars and stuff in the sky. I always have my head down in it and just working on it. I always feel like it's not coming out. But if I look up on the live stream and see what's taking place there, it's actually pretty cool. Like it's sort of selling the effect. Sorry about the camera, I can't get into position, right? One of these days I'll get a cool camera set up here. But it's people always talk about suspension of disbelief when we talk about movies and stuff, which if you're not familiar with it, it's the idea of, if you were not to suspend your disbelief, then every time you read a fictional story or watched a fictional movie, you would not believe any of it, especially the more fantastical it is, like sci-fi and stuff like that. But like we're able to, when we go into movies and stuff, to suspend that disbelief for a while while we watch, and that's how we can really enjoy movies and stuff. What I'm actually finding out, like with art, there's actually an element of suspension of disbelief too, because especially the more realistic you try to draw, like if you're trying to make this look like a real night sky, like there's a certain point when your eye has to finally actually see it as more than the two-dimensional drawing and just ink on paper. It's weird because I kind of have I struggle with that a lot as I do my art, to break out of that and just seeing like this ink and stuff, and just it's not feeling like it's coming together and stuff. But then a lot of times when I step back, and like that with perspective and stuff too, is just, obviously with a two-dimensional piece of artwork, perspective is always a trick. You're tricking your mind to see perspective and depth in your art. So there's definitely an element of suspension of disbelief in art too. I don't know why I torture myself with drawing family members, because I'm always really disappointed and almost embarrassed to show it later, because you have to be right on point to do portraits. The slightest little mistake can really turn out ugly. Like a few days ago, the word was rocket, and I drew my boys in a little cardboard rocket. And because of time restraints, I just didn't really have time to keep working on it to make them look like them. And it's really pretty ugly, and I think I'm so disappointed with how it turned out. Like the rocket's okay, but the boy's not. I think I actually might go and erase, like white out their faces and try to redo. Maybe go for a more cartoony look or something. I just hate to do them such an injustice because they're cute little guys in real life. It's super cute. I'm kind of terrified right now that I'm messing up my wife. She's really pretty and cute to me. I hate injustice with my crappy art. Kind of torn whether I wanted to make this really stylistic or realistic. I don't know. An element of stylistic because obviously the moon didn't look like a big cartoon cheese. She wasn't actually on a pillow in the photo. When I was younger, I always liked to listen to music as I slept. It would actually kind of help me fall asleep, even if it was like hardcore stuff, like louder music. For some reason, it would just, I would just fall asleep to it. I think a lot of times what I've realized about falling asleep is you're trying to get yourself to step out of your waking world and move into your head more. And so if you can actually think of like stories and stuff, you kind of helps you step into your headspace and stop thinking about what's going on around you outside. So like listening to music can really help with that, I think. Obviously, I think the more chilled out the music is, the better it is to go to sleep to. So something like this, Max Richter, never heard of until like a couple of years ago. But I used to see, what was it? Some drum and bass stuff that I had to really listen to and fall asleep to. Repetitive stuff. Music seems to rhythm scenes and It's crazy to think that we sleep more than half of our lives away. This is what God designed us, I guess, to need to recharge at night. On the one hand, it's kind of, God, why didn't you let us stay awake more? We could get more done. But on the other hand, it's like, thank you, Lord. I just love that time. Like, especially when you have good nights of sleep, it's so nice. See, that's so important to get the minor little details right on somebody. If you knew what my wife looked like, it's not quite right. Like there's a little bit more of a. I made her bottom lip just a tiny bit too big, and so it just takes away from looking like her. So it's pretty close that way. There we can kind of trick you how big I made it. The thing about black and white drawings is it's another thing about the aspect of trying to capture a person is a lot of what you see when you look at someone's face is determined by subtle light differences, midtones, and dark and light. When you when you fully contrast a face, you reduce it to just black and just white, you lose all the midtones. So, I mean, even if you take a real photo and just do that in Photoshop and drop out all the midtones so it's only highlights, it really starts to change how that person looks. Usually you can still kind of look like the person, but it really takes away a lot of the characteristics that you're used to seeing in that person. So like, that's another problem with just doing straight black ink, unless you're really good at your cross hatching. And that's really difficult. In fact, I'm so scared of trying that right now on her face. Like, there's definitely some real light, subtle shade on the bottom part of her chin right there. And part of me wants to add that. Part of me is too scared because if it's too heavy, it's going to just ruin it. And I really stand the risk of it being too heavy because, again, that's something I've learned over time with drawing, and like especially with ink and pen, is your ratio of the size of your pen tip to the size of the drawing. The smaller the drawing, the bigger your tip is in relation to the drawing, and so you're not as able to get the smaller details that are really important. So I probably should leave that alone and just attempt to. Really hard to get it placed right. Another thing about sleep that I'm really fascinated with is dreams. Just think it's so cool that your brain is at work creating like stories and plot lines and stuff while you sleep. And I actually started a series of dream paintings way back in the early 2000s. Actually, rewind, I started a dream journal when I was in high school, which is really cool that I did that back then. Like, I just wrote down, as soon as I woke up, before I forgot anything, I would write down the dreams that I had. So I've got like this great collection of bizarre, wacky dreams. And then I later had this idea to do paintings of them. So I was doing oil paintings, just really small, 8x10 oil paintings. I think I got about 7 of them or so. I think it might be on my art blog. I can't remember. If I didn't, I'll have to make a post about that. I'm just fascinated by these things that we think of at night. It's like they always seem to have so much meaning. It feels like when you wake up from a dream, it's really profound. It's like you've got to tell everybody because it's a crazy dream I had. It means something. It's so important. A lot of times you wake up just with the important feeling that you can't remember anything about that dream. That's frustrating. All right, I think I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because I kind of like how this looks. I'm afraid if I add any more, I'm going to ruin it. So thanks for watching, and tune in tomorrow for the next one.